Hi, Erica.
Hello.
How was your day?
It's been great. How's yours?
It's great.
Good.
We were just talking about how we're ready for Thanksgiving break.
Very
because
much
we're
ready.
overwhelmed.
So ready.
Okay, so Erica, just briefly tell me what you teach.
I teach integrated 1, periods 1, 2, and 3, and 1 and 2 are collab class with a collab teacher.
Okay.
So half of the students are special ed students, so that's been a new challenge for me this year.
Right. So how long have you been in the classroom?
This is my 3rd year teaching Math 1.
Right, and we are both at the same site at the high school level. So, overall, your focus for this cycle was engaging and supporting all students in learning, and your driving question was, are you effectively incorporating vocabulary and technology strategies to teach and keep students engaged? Okay, so can you share what your typical class was like before you had this focus? So go ahead.
Yeah, so before students would come into class and there would be a warm-up on the smartboard, and that would be the extent of the technology that I would use in the class, and I would project whatever notes we were going over that day on the smartboard, and that's all the technology that they'd be using. They would have the warm-up, and as they were completing the warm-up, I would walk around and stamp for completion of homework. Then we would quickly go over the answers to the homeworks that can check to see that they're making, accurate progress. If they're not, they could come in for tutoring and see me after school. There's not enough time in the day to also go over homework and learn something new. After that, we would complete the warm-up, go over it, discuss it, and there's an objective always posted on the left-hand side of the board. So I have a student read that, and then that segues us, connects the warm-up to the lesson that we're learning, pull out vocabulary, and I wouldn't write them down ever because it would already be written as the objective. So I would just verbally talk about it. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to focus on, is how to build that. And I have a lot of EL students and a lot of SPED students now. So I think having them vocally, or what is the word I'm looking for? Verbally, there you go, verbally talk about it and to visually see it would be more helpful. So that's what I focused on this time. But then I would go into the lesson and they would maybe have 5 or 10 minutes practice their homework before they left.
So when you would go into the lesson, were students taking notes in their Springboard book, or like, how did that look?
It was on and off. If I used the book that day, then yeah, they would have the pages torn out. I do supplement a lot with this book, and I also do cut out a lot of Springboard. Sometimes we just talk about the questions and we don't really physically answer them in the consumable, which I've seen is not as helpful as it could be if I were to actually just take the time and have them write it down, and so that way they can use their notes for their reference too.
Right. Okay. So that makes sense why you picked the focus that you picked. So share specifically what you tried different.
So this last cycle, the last couple weeks, have been giving them closed notes or guided notes. They're scaffolded, and instead of having a definition that's written down and we just read it and go over it and move on, there'd be a definition with a couple words missing out of it. And then I would read the definition, and then I'll have another student read the definition, and then we would move on from there. But I noticed that I still didn't write it in on the smartboard, and that's something that I do want to work on later, because I was seeing that a lot of the students were misspelling the words that we were saying because they were just listening to it.
Okay.
It's probably because they're EL.
Right, that makes sense.
So, yeah.
So that was the vocabulary piece. What about the rest of the?
The note-taking stuff, I took more time, and instead of crossing stuff out or just talking about the questions and moving on, I actually created another set of notes for them and printed those out for them instead of them using just the Springboard book.
Okay.
So it was still questions from Springboard, but.
Where do you have them put those loose papers? Do they keep them?
Yeah, they have a math
Okay.
notebook where on the right side they staple in all their notes because their notes are right.
Right.
And
Yes.
on the left side they put in their homework, and so that way when their notebook is open they can see their notes easily and complete the homework.
Perfect. So I'm asking that for a specific reason for myself, because I'm just getting used to Springboard too,
Yeah.
and like what's the best way of doing it when the book isn't ideal or
Mhm.
pieces are and pieces aren't. So that's why I pick everybody's brain,
Yeah.
because I'm curious. What would you say the best outcome from your new strategy that you tried was? What was the best outcome?
the students were way more engaged and they could follow along a lot better when I wasn't jumping around and skipping questions like, oh, cross out 5 through 6 because we're not going to do those, or wait, I didn't get an answer for number 4, and I would say, we talked about it, write it down, but I didn't give them a chance to actually write it down. So
more
cutting
engaged.
that out, yeah,
Good.
they stayed more on task and they seemed to know the material better.
That's nice. What do you feel like you would do differently for further improvement? Maybe something that wasn't ideal that you would fine tune. You already mentioned about actually writing the words in the blanks on the smartboard.
Mhm.
Is there anything else?
I would post the notes, the completed notes on Google Classroom every day, so that way the students who were not there could at least see the notes. I wouldn't complete the practice for them, but at least that way they can have the notes for at home, or if they lost their notes, they're there online, and
Nice.
just an extra technology piece for them to reference. I know that's not exactly using technology in the classroom,
It is.
but it's an additional
it's for
piece
sure.
that I wish I would have had in high
Right,
school.
absolutely.
It would have been nice.
So share how this impacted any GATE, EL, or special ed students you had in your class.
So I don't have any GATE students,
Okay.
strictly special ed and EL students. But I think it was helpful for them too because it was more structure and less freedom to write notes,
Mhm.
which is definitely helpful, especially when they're learning a new subject. And I had a student actually yesterday say, oh, I feel like I'm in Spanish class. This is so repetitive. And I was like, that's how you learn something new, that you do it again and again and again. And math
Right.
is another language, so you do have to keep doing
Again and
the
again.
same thing,
Yes.
drill and kill, over and over again.
I've heard also there's a lot of research out there that talk about closed note taking. So I've always, not always, I've done it for the last few years in my own classes, creating my own notes with
Mhm.
blanks and examples the way I like it. So I'm having trouble letting go of that with Springboard. So
Yeah.
every now and then I'll throw in one of my own and they staple it in the book. But the research shows that kids, if it's already like an outline for them, they don't have to think about where to put it. Like, because some kids just don't know where to put it.
Right.
They can't watch you do it and then know where it goes. So when it's already pre-done, organized for them, that their brain is able to take in the information in a
Mhm.
better way. So that's really
That's
cool.
good, yeah.
So what are your next steps?
Well, from here on out, I'm going to be looking at the next CSTP, probably CSTP 2, because we have 5 inquiries. So I think that would be nice to just go from number 1 to number 2. And, it's like I'm linear or something.
You are linear. You could do it any way you want, though. So
Okay.
feel free to pick and choose,
Okay.
or you could stick with the same one. Although you're pretty good at what you do, I don't see you needing to stick with that.
Thank
But
you. I do want to keep using the closed notes thing.
Right.
It is a lot of extra work,
Right.
but if it's helpful for the students, then I don't see why I shouldn't stop doing, or I should stop doing it. So,
awesome. Do you have any questions for me?
how are you doing your Springboard notes? Because I know you said you're getting a lot
Okay.
from other teachers.
So if I have the enhanced math 3, so I have the best Springboard kids on campus.
Right.
And so I trusted them to hold on to them. They carry them back and forth every day. I have them take notes right in Springboard, but ahead of time I will have gone through and shown them, we're going to cross out these ones, so you're not going to focus on those.
Okay.
If there's a warm-up within the notes, then I go ahead and tell them that as soon as they walk in, open to this page, and you and your elbow partner work on such and such, to get ready. If it's not something that's already in there, I'll have the warm-up up on the board, but I'll tell them, put it in the margin in your Springboard book,
Okay.
so it's there. I have students that don't like writing in the book, so I allow them the flexibility to take notes on a piece of paper and then staple it in, or they could get a 3-ring binder and keep what's done
Okay.
in Springboard and on their paper, so I'm giving them some flexibility just because they're the better, more responsible students, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Every now and then, at least, every activity 10 or activity 11, when it's like a 3 or 4 day version of notes, I will take one that's less discovery, because Springboard is a lot of real life application discovery. When there's something just very straightforward, like we're learning vertical and horizontal asymptotes today, there isn't a ton of application
Right.
within that. We did the lead in on that already, but on that day, then sometimes I will create my own closed notes, and then
Okay.
I'll just have them staple it in. So I pass it out, and the kids love those days. Just like you, I get
Yeah.
more engagement. They they like seeing my handwriting,
Mhm.
like, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
versus the book. And so I think it's a nice balance that there's not one size fits all for every
Mhm.
day. And so I like both, yeah.
So they actually physically carry their whole book, and their whole book,
Yeah.
their consumable is their notebook.
Yeah,
That's nice.
so.
It's a much smaller book than Math 1 too, which is interesting.
I can't tell if it's the same or not because it's getting bigger and bigger
Oh,
as we keep
adding
stapling
things in.
to it. But the kids are very good. Like
Okay.
maybe they'll put a graph, they'll staple a graph in, and they'll have it folded down. You know, I think it's working really well. We'll see.
That's a
how
good
it is
idea. I
implemented.
didn't think about
Yeah.
actually making them carry their books back and forth.
Right. Well, Math 1, I would be worried.
They wouldn't come back is the problem.
Exactly.
They're a big book, so.
Yeah, so it would be hard, but it's a work in progress for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much,
Of course.
and have a good day.
You as well.